Lola either.
Lori.
All right, the hour 6:30 has arrived. I'd like to start this study session of Urbana School District 116. Roll call, please.
Member Baxley?
Here.
Member Staton?
Yep.
Member Langendorf here. Member Jones? Vice President Exum?
Here.
President Pulowski?
Here, we do have a quorum. Are there any additions, corrections, or modifications to tonight's agenda? Right. Section 9.4 is being pulled from our list of action items tonight on the individual action item list. Next up is citizen statements. If anybody would like to make a statement before the board, please fill out a goldenrod sheet in the back of the room and hand it to our recording secretary, Lori Johnson. We've got, I think, 5 of them so far. First up tonight is Lacey Elliott.
Does this work? Is it on? Yeah. Okay. All right. I've thought a lot about what I want to say tonight. I'm definitely not going to get through this, so just. And I've come to the conclusion that there isn't anything I can say. Because the people who are in charge of our district do not respect me and the people that I represent. When you respect someone, you give them an opportunity to have a say in your decision making that affects them. When you respect someone, you don't lie to them for months about asbestos because you're worried about their reaction to hearing the truth. When you respect someone, you listen to their wishes about what matters to them, their children. When you respect someone, you don't make every single decision for them and then give them a choice between concept 1 and concept 2. That is the equivalent of me letting my 2-year-old pick if she walks or I carry her to her nap, and then carrying her anyway when she walks in the wrong direction. When you respect someone, you keep your promises. So really, I should go home. The second I'm done, I'll be dismissed as a voice of privilege, or as too emotional, or resistant to change, or whatever you choose to label me so that you don't have to listen. There's little point to talking to an audience who doesn't care what I have to say. But I do respect this community. I respect my neighbors whose school was shut in 2 weeks and were lied to about the reason. I respect my neighbors who will be moved to a 3rd school in 3 years. I respect the hardworking, loving, and generous Yankee Ridge teachers who should have been part of the conversation on replacing Yankee Ridge with a dual language school. I respect the middle school teachers who do not think the 6th grade center will solve the problems at the middle school and will make their jobs harder. I respect the expertise of the interventionists that were dismissed without warning. I respect the dual language teachers who are doing very difficult jobs with very little support and are now stuck in the middle of this toxic situation. And I respect the thoughtful, careful work of brilliant people in our community who are experts in their fields and whose voices you have disregarded. And I respect the right of my children and all the children in Urbana to a free and appropriate education under the law. So I'm here again, and I will say this again. We don't have enough time to make the transition for the 2 bilingual strands into Yankee School Ridge by this fall and appropriately staff Leal and DPW. It sounds like we don't have the money for the 6th grade center as it was planned. We don't have the personnel to staff our schools because you keep running them off with your poor people skills. And we need a pause. We need a careful plan. We need to know how we will pay for it and how we know it will work. We need buy-in from the community. We need a strategic plan.
Next up is Emma Ehrenhardt.
My name is Emma Ehrenhart. I'm a parent to a first grader at Yankee Ridge in the French dual language program. I'm here again to ask for a pause in the strategic plan. Since the district is trying to spin our narrative, let me state clearly, I do not oppose a transparent redistricting that fully considers all the data and all the stakeholders. I support Spanish dual language getting its own building, and I do not oppose French dual language being included in a dual language school should there be a clear plan for the success of both programs. But currently the plan is to give them their own building. That is not a sufficient plan. In RSP's presentation, they stated, quote, number of dual language students is held constant the next 5 years due to challenges with projecting enrollment at the programming level, end quote. I appreciate it is hard to predict, but RSP in the district not even attempting is a disservice to the dual language community. I have heard about the great population growth within the Latin American immigrant community, and that is anticipated to continue. What is the plan should the dual language population grow above target capacity in the next 5 years? Will we overcrowd the dual language school? Will we decrease the number of English-speaking scholars? Will we move or discontinue the French program? As the superintendent has said before, she does not have a crystal ball, but you are our leader, so lead. Come up with the metrics related to capacity, academic, and behavioral benchmarks, and what mitigations can be instituted when those metrics are triggered. A strategic plan is not bullet points of goals. It is a clear direction on how we achieve those goals and the metrics to measure the success and the failures, and ways to adjust when needed, rather than continually blindsiding our community with substantial changes that have just as much potential to negatively impact our children as positively. This includes the 6th grade center and the problems in the middle school. I do not see how a 6th grade center is going to solve any problems. By RSP's own data analysis, the middle school is not above target capacity. But by reopening Wiley as a 6th grade center rather than an elementary school, we will push several elementary schools to be over target capacity in the next 5 years. Larger classrooms have proven to lead to worse academic achievements and hurt teacher retention and recruitment. Additionally, creating another transition for our students in 7th grade, which again is proven to hurt academic and behavioral achievements. All the while, there has been no proposals to address the behavior and academic problems in the middle school other than to remove the 6th graders. Again, a building is not a plan. It can be part of a plan, but without other actions to support the goals, they will underperform and hurt our children. Furthermore, I'm appalled by the lack of information provided to all families, including the Congolese community. In Dr. Ivory Tatum's 2001 PhD thesis, it states, quote, more efforts need to be taken by staff to communicate with those hard-to-reach parents. Activities need to be offered at different times of the day, with activities even on Saturday, end quote. The district heavily relies on sharing information through board meetings in both video recordings and written summaries. Neither are translated to French. It is hard enough to extract the applicable information as a native English speaker through these platforms. How are our Congolese families supposed to stay informed when the information is not provided in their language? Our only opportunity to voice concerns is in this meeting. There are Congolese and other parents in the district that work 2nd and 3rd shift. My dad worked 2nd and 3rd shift when I was a young child. It is difficult enough to manage family life with those shifts, much less engagement with the school district that makes minimal effort to work with their limited schedule. Furthermore, there is no childcare provided for this meeting. How do we expect families to engage with all these constraints? The simple answer is you don't care for us to engage. You want to make the decisions on our behalf without any outreach. And then I just want to highlight one more example of the district failing to properly communicate with the Congolese community. I attended the French BPAC meeting last month, and Lupe and Jennifer gave a half-hour presentation in English. Only upon concluding the presentation did we learn that the automated Zoom translation they relied on was not accurately translating. Why was a French BPAC meeting conducted in English? I understand neither Lupe or Jennifer speak French, and I cannot fault them for that since I do not speak French either. But they should have had a different individual present, or at least co-present the information in French from the start of the meeting, since the objective of BPAC is to serve the French-speaking families. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Janelle Elliott.
Hello again. Tonight I just have a couple of questions and concerns that I will keep under my time limit. My first one, I was looking back at some slides from a presentation back on February 2nd, 2022. And on there, they're stated that there would be a committee formation for the redistricting. that committee formation would have equal representation to include a teacher, parent, and admin from each elementary school in addition to other community stakeholders. Did this happen? I don't know anything about it, and I tried pretty hard to stay informed, so I'm assuming it did not, and I would like to know why we didn't have that committee. My second point, I continue to hear concern for Wiley kids and taking them into high priority when redistricting. RSP even said something about honoring that at input night. But what I haven't heard is just a straight apology. Because you said yes to the DL school, which again, I'm not against, but that yes did mean breaking your promise to the Wiley families. I believe that original promise was made so that you could go ahead with closing Wiley as quickly as you wanted to when they were asking you to slow down and make a plan. The Wiley families rightfully wanted to be sure that what is happening right now isn't what would happen to their children. And now we're seeing that happen, and what I continue to hear is concern and awareness and a desire to do something that cannot be done if we move forward, right? It's just not possible. If we decide we're choosing a DL school between between Yankee Ridge and Thomas Paine, some amount of Wiley kids will be moved again. And so I think you should own that and apologize. Last, I think strong leaders do own their mistakes and missteps and welcome collaboration. This process has been full of mistakes and missteps and lacking in collaboration. Nobody is perfect, and I don't think we all expect perfection. We've all probably led things imperfectly, jobs, families, and such. But we do expect honesty and transparency. We talk a lot about rebuilding trust. I've seen that included over the I've been here 8 years with a kid in the schools and involved, and I've heard that over and over, a desire to rebuild trust. I believe that's done by listening, collaborating, and apologizing. The process matters. The plan, we're asking for a plan, that matters, but how you execute it matters just as much. Please pause, and please make a plan with community input. Thank you.
Julie Duvall.
My name is Julie Duvall. I'm a parent of Urbana. Paul, I'd like to ask for an ADA accommodation if I go over 5 minutes. Thank you. I came here for a reason, but then in light of some things today and stuff on social media, I want to address that as well. There seems to be some issues within our district as a whole. People it's not safe. My daughter came home and is repeating things that she sees on Facebook, and kids are fighting at lunch over my mom said this or your dad said this. And it's getting into a place where it doesn't need to be. I think the district made some mistakes, and including the board, on how things were. But I think there's some narratives that are not fair. 2 weeks ago, we had a meeting at Yankee Ridge. Paul, we talked to you and Ravi. The next meeting, Dr. Ivory Tatum, you addressed most of those issues in your PowerPoint or your slides. Do I think you should have done that sooner or a little bit, made it more clear? Yes, but you did address them. So for them to say that you're silent and not doing anything, that's not fair. It's become, this environment is not safe anymore. You can't speak anything on Facebook or you get attacked on Facebook. And that's not okay. That's not what Urbana is for. I have been very vocal about what my opinion is. I received emails after last Thursday's meeting that Dr. Ivory Tatum purposely cut off a big mouth like me at the meeting. That was not the case at all. I had been at the meeting on Wednesday. She had closed public comments at 6:30 so that little groups could talk. I was there Thursday. She did stop right when I was at the line, but it was 6:40. So I don't think she was slighting me at all. I think she was just wanting to give that time to the other people. But there is such an us against them mentality. To say that we don't want to pit against each other, that is exactly what the community is doing, and we're not having a good, it's just not working all the way around. I don't agree with everything that the board or Dr. Ivory Tatum that you've done, but I'm not a superintendent. I run a local nonprofit, and I know that I can't make everybody happy. I was shocked at the variables at the district meeting that you guys have to go through, and like just doing the redistricting, there were so many different things that I didn't even think about. So I just wanted to say on that, as a parent, that we need to get along. I do think that the district, the board, and Dr. J need to bring some camaraderie between your district speaker, your families. We already see it at Thomas Paine and Wiley. Or you know, the Wiley people some of the Wiley people came to Thomas Paine, and the kids feel that stress. Paul, you were addressed at the last meeting about something you said 14 years ago. I commend you for saying what you said 14 years ago. I also commend you for being on the board, learning information that you weren't aware of, not being on the board, and that people change. I change what I'm going to have for dinner tomorrow night. The fact that in 14 years you've changed your mind on something. I also want to bring to the attention of the 6th grade center. There are so many fires in the district right now. I don't know how you can make a strategic plan. Not saying you don't need one, but there are seriously fires. For those that don't know, there was a sweep was it last week at the high school. I only know about the high school. I think it happened at the middle school. There were, in 15 minutes, canines did a search, and they caught 11 lockers with drugs. What's interesting about that is for 2 weeks, the district and the school were telling parents and putting it out there, this is coming, this is what we're going to do. And 11 students had drugs in their locker. Imagine if the canines had to come in off the spot, how many drugs or things they would have found. So I value everybody's opinion. I think we all have I'm a disability advocate. I believe everybody has a right to a voice. But part of having a right to a voice is also having a right to listen. And attacking people, say your piece, understand that we don't know all the variables above, and we're all grasping at straws for answers, but we need to have some kind of, we do need a leader. And I think decisions have been made, which is now on to my second point. As a SPED advocate, as things go right now, it looks like it's Thomas Paine or Yankee Ridge that are for dual language. As a SPED advocate, I want the board to be aware that a few years ago, or 2 years ago, we renovated Thomas Paine. In those renovations, I sat in on meetings purposely to address issues for SPED students. There are 5 cross-cat classrooms in that building. Things such as a shower room, laundry facilities, classrooms with bathrooms. They have a huge OT space with equipment and things, different sensory items. I'm okay. In this district, if you choose Yankee Ridge, my grandkids will go to Leo. Not my favorite thing, but he's just one of many. And if that's the better good of the district, then I'll take that. I can deal with that. What I can't deal with is the SPED. We have a SPED building, yet we are contemplating kicking a SPED group of people out of their building that was made in essence for them, or had renovations for them, for dual language. I believe in dual language. I believe they need their new school. However, when the board makes that decision, I want you to be aware that there are students' IEPs. There are, as I brought up the bathroom, some of these students have life skills, and they're learning toileting and personal issues that can be done in a public bathroom. But now you're looking at taking away their privacy and embarrassing them. If we wouldn't have had the renovations, I really wouldn't say much, but we did, and we didn't know this was going to happen a couple years ago. So I do believe that Yankee Ridge should be the dual language school. I've talked to Randy about if you chose Thomas Paine and you made the other 3 schools, split the kids through the other 3 schools, what kind of costs are we looking at to provide showers, the private bathrooms, the amenities. I mean, we're talking, it was, I think Randy and I talked about 3 adaptive playground equipment, pieces of playground equipment for each school. The other 3 schools would be roughly over $100,000. That's just playground equipment. So to take from a protected class for another protected class is a huge PR mistake. Well, it's huge. It's wrong anyway, but the huge PR mistake that you would be making choosing the dual language trumps SPED. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Ephraim Tutwiler.
Hi, I'm Ephraim Tutwiler. I've got 3 kids in the district, and my wife is also a staff member here. Number one, I know he's not here, but I'd like to thank Ravi for his service here. It was a well-needed voice on the board that kind of spoke up and asked questions, and I do want to thank him for that. He's he actually took the time to kind of hear us through some of the more difficult times. But what I'm here to ask for is just more planning, because a lot of times what's going on is from my time here is we focus on the new important thing, but not the people who are going to be affected by such changes. And so in creating one thing, you're creating multiple other issues. I know that you're trying to, but we're not taking enough time to plan for these things. I see that this redistricting is one of the first times that we've got other non-district professionals involved here for redistricting. We didn't have that during the Wiley discussions. Paul, I want to thank you, and I know Ravi were here as well. This was the first time that, with decisions made since I've been involved, that I actually saw some board members in actually having a conversation with us in the public. It's been a tough situation here. Like, I want to advocate for not only my kids, but the rest of the people here in the district. But at some point, I think we need more planning. And I'm asking for you guys to at least put a pause. I know that you've got to fill another position here. At the very least, before we push forward to pushing more, I think we need more voices and more people heard, because there is so much that you're trying to address. And without having more representation, I do want to ask that, there's several events that go on throughout the school year. I haven't seen a board member at a Thomas Paine night. Like, I know you guys are meant to represent us. At the same time, like, I think I saw Dr. Ivory Tatum at the early childhood prom that we had. But if you want more transparency and you want us to feel more comfortable with you guys, we definitely want to see you guys at some of the events that are going on here as well. Like, you guys are part of the community. You guys live in our area. We'd love to see some of that, so that this way it's not just twice a month out here, having a conversation with you. It would definitely make us feel like you're part of the community as well. Because this whole situation, I'm choosing my words very carefully, because I know this whole situation hurts my heart. Like, going through this kind of a second time, it's really tough. And I'm asking for more non-district research to be done to come up with a better plan and presenting it to us, rather than just the other night. I was only there for a few minutes, and I got to see some of the other things were up there. But those experts, it's like running them to the firing squad, right? It was a lot. And there is a little bit more discussion that needs to be had so that we can prompt them to get better results. It's just like using AI. Like, if you don't ask the right questions, you're not going to get the right answers back. And I feel like we need more discussion before we bring those experts in. so that we can bring back more and better responses that I think are going to help us more in the long run. But until then, I definitely think that we need to pause and actually come up with a better system for what's going on. Not only transparency that's been mentioned. I know when I talked to Ben, that was something that was going to be important to him. Paul, when you were at the last meeting, it was the same thing. When Ravi was here, it was the same thing. We were asking for more transparency, and I've sent several emails, and none of them have been responded to, except for Ben and Ravi. There have been numerous instances where I've sent other emails prior to this, and there hasn't been a response. Like, we want more transparency, and at least responding to those would go a long way. Thank you.
Thank you. Lindsay Amarabu.
All right. Good evening. I went ahead and took the time going through finding 6th grade centers in the United States that people claim don't exist or work. I made a PowerPoint of some found and emailed it to the board. The list could have went on because there are quite a bit of them. I even took it a step further and started reaching out to them and asking questions that I'm hearing from others in the USD 116 district. One person replied quite quickly, and I'm still waiting to hear from others who choose to answer. The reply I got was super interesting. They replied with, "Hi, Lindsay. It really is quite interesting, this idea of a different grade configurations being more successful than others. At one district I worked at previously, we did research on all of the grade configurations and found that you can find research that backs up just about any kind of configuration you can come up with. At Union Public Schools, we actually have a 6th and 7th grade in the same building. We have always had issues with students making the transition from elementary school, which ends at 5th grade for us, to the 6th and 7th grade center. Since our last bond issue, we have made the decision that our 6th, 7th grade center is not configured in the way we need it to be. As a result, we are going to try to create smaller learning environments for the 6th grade, so it is an easier transition from elementary. Our 6th, 7th grade center has about 2,200 students in it, so it is pretty large. From there, students progress to our 8th grade center, which is totally self-confined or contained. Then there is the freshman academy, which is only 9th graders. Then Union High School, which is grades 10 through 12 and has about 3,300 students. We have many people who strongly believe that it does help alleviate some of the problems that have multiple grades in a building. However, one of the buildings where we have the most behavior issues is the 8th grade center. I'm not sure how helpful this is to you and not sure if it proves the point one way or another. Like I said, you can find research that supports just about any point of view." And this was from Chris Payne. He's the Chief Communications Officer at Union Public Schools. There are some centers who are failing for 6th grade centers and might not have the best scores. But there are also many K through 6, K through 5 schools that are failing as well and don't have the best scores. There are some centers, the 6th grade centers, that are amazing and have awesome scores and the kids are excelling. And the same goes through K through 6 and K through 5. I'm asking not to pause, that we do need the 6th grade center, that configurations do work, that it is, we can reach out to so many more 6th grade centers and get the inputs as well. As far as handling things now, I think it's important that we don't pause because we'll still keep the at-risk children at risk. I also went through general information about the school district and how it became, and it goes back to 1857. It used to be Urbana Male and Female Seminary. That ended up burning down. You had 2nd Ward, 4th Ward, Leal, District number 4, Thornburn, Lincoln, Weber, Hayes, the high school, Washington, Perkins, Wiley. Even Brookins was a junior high. So that was because of the baby boomers, and that ended up closing to decline in, of course, the attendance population, but it doesn't mean it doesn't work. It can always work. And as far as what is going on social media, I think that there are parents who are fighting for the cause that they believe in and that they want for their children. And if it doesn't go towards their agenda, they attack, they pinpoint, they target you guys as well by posting your social status and homes where you may live and neighborhoods. I don't think that's right. I don't think it's okay to target people. I think we should all have adult conversations and the hard conversations and be civil about it. Do your research, look things up, communicate, reach out, talk, but don't just say something isn't going to work because that is your opinion. Thank you.
Robbie Nagel.
Hi, good evening. I'm Rob. I have a high schooler, a freshman in the dual language program. I have 2 kindergartners. One is in the French dual language program, one is not. And so I'm here to ask for and advocate for pausing making any further decisions until you have involved the community and teachers more thoroughly. One of the questions is what would happen to the students who are not in a dual language program? So will my son have to go to a different school than my daughter, even though they're in the same grade? The other thing is too that, you know, if the dual language is an entire building, if there are some students who decide that the dual language program isn't for them, they'll have to go to an entirely different school. And the way that it's set up right now is that if students drop out of the dual language program, they're able to at least stay in the same school. They can go to a different classroom. There are models, there are other schools that have a English classroom in that building. And I know that was the idea, was to have the culture of the school, and I think that can be a possibility. But again, this is something that needs to be discussed and needs to be talked about, needs to be explored for all of the students. I've been very happy with the dual language program and both the French and the Spanish dual language programs, and I think they should continue, and they should continue to thrive. The thing that's frustrating here for me, and I think for a lot of parents, is that these decisions are being made and there are other ideas that come up that we think are good ideas, but the board and the administration doesn't seem to want to discuss them. And it would be one thing if the Urbana School District had the highest test scores in the county and the most satisfied teachers in the county, and the board was making these types of decisions. You know, I would trust a lot of these decisions if that was the thing. But the record shows that there's a lot of issues in multiple areas of the district, and the board continues to make decisions that are questionable without solving the previous issues. So there's no trust in how these issues that are coming up are going to improve the outcomes of students and improve the morale of teachers. It's frustrating to sit back and watch the district worsen over time. And we're calling out, we're pleading to please listen to us and to please let us help make the district a better place. There are a lot of options that we can do. There are a lot of things on the table, but we need to slow down and take a break and come back together as a community. Thank you.
Kennedy Lifiania. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong. Lifenia?
Lithuania. Okay. My name is Kennedy Lithuania. I have 3 kids who are on a Yankee Ridge and a French program. So I'm here just to say about my community. And first of all, we want to thank you to keep the French language program, because everyone want to see it growing. And they also mentioned that they want the French program stay in Yankee Ridge because when it was created, it was on a Martin Luther King, and when it was moved on the Yankee Ridge, and then we see the program how it was growing and is growing, and then we think to keep on our Yankee Ridge, you gotta keep our community to be closer, and then growing this program for the better for tomorrow. So I wanna also ask for the opportunity you give to me to speak also in French, if it could be possible. So, je parle au nom de notre communauté, qui est la communauté française, et notre communauté vous remercie d'avoir compris notre souci et de continuer avec le programme de français-anglais au district de Urbana. Et la communauté vous demande s'il y a moyen aussi de laisser ce programme à Yankee Ridge. C'est là où nous voyons que tous nos parents sont impliqués dedans et ils pensent que dans les années à venir, ça pourrait encore augmenter et le programme sera encore plus important pour notre communauté. Thank you.
Sam Vandergrift, this is our last citizen statement that we have. And if anybody else would like to make a statement before the board, please fill out a sheet, goldenrod sheet in the back of the room, and hand it to Lori Johnson, please.
Thanks, Paul. Hi, everybody. My name is Sam Vandergrift. I have 2 kids in the district, a high schooler, and I have a 5th grader at Yankee Ridge. I really want to thank everyone on the board because I know that this is unpaid, thankless, very difficult, time-consuming work. And I do not doubt for a minute that all of you come to this with the best intentions and hopes that everybody in this district is going to do the best they can. So I have 2 comments tonight. First is about the, I think, pretty obvious way that public comments were not invited at the last couple sessions because there weren't actually facilities provided for people to be able to do so. Right? I know that there are more than 2 microphones in this district. I can't tell exactly how many are in this room, but the fact that there was 1 corded microphone at that event last week was an absolute joke. And if I had an employee who I had delegated that task to, I would have written them up or at least yelled at them about that, right? It would have been like so embarrassing as a body to sit down and not have the facilities that we needed to be able to have an actual input session. Smash that against the fact that nobody bothered to read a calendar or intentionally chose nights that there were all district band and orchestra concerts so that there was an artificial cap on debate, not to mention the fact that the second night we only got 22 minutes of the 30 minutes promised. I understand lots of things are going on, but this is beyond optics, right? And it seems a little bit like Nixon's secret plan to end the war right now. That there's something going on, but nobody gets to know what it is until it gets rammed through. And I don't really feel like that's particularly Urbana. That's just something that's been on my mind a lot. I've been trying to think a lot about what the essence of Urbana is, and I think it's a place where people talk, and it's a place where people think, and it's a place where people dream, and it's a place where people plan. And I would like us all to get to that place together. Second is more brass tacks. I think the middle school is getting like lots of the limelight in terms of violence and things being chaotic. There hasn't been a week this year that my daughter's in 5th grade at Yankee Ridge has come home and not told me that there's been at least 1 or 2 fights. Over the last week, there's been 4 kids who brought weapons to school, 2 look-alike guns and a couple knives. And she's not real keen to try to, she's got, she's not going to be one to out people. She wants to try to take care of things herself. But she said it's not a coincidence that the day that a friend of hers told a couple people in the class that he was gay, and that they said some pretty nasty things to him back, that within that same week they had brought weapons to school and had threatened him at recess, right? So we have lots of issues starting really young. I'd love to see a plan for more support staff in schools. I'd love to see a plan for more social workers in schools. And I'd love to see how we can creatively juggle our budget given the limited resources that we have to try to figure out how the kids that need more support, and I think a lot of the ties, common bonds, ties, things like that fell apart during COVID, like the kids that haven't bounced back from that are the ones that are having a hard time reacclimating to trying to be in a learning environment. And it's making it so kids that are there to learn they're also losing their opportunity to do so, right? All of the bandwidth and RAM of the teachers and administrators in the schools right now, you understand what I mean, right? I'm not trying to be hyperbolic, but like there's so much time that is being sucked out of our day from the learning environment because we're just trying to deal with keeping things stable, right? That's all I have today. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. One last call. Would anyone else like to make a statement before the board? All right, that's it for citizen statements tonight. There is no call for an executive session following tonight's meeting. Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda as amended? Reminder, action item 9.4 has been removed.
I move for approval with the removal of 9.4.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No student pass report for tonight then?
Nope. One had a commitment and one is celebrating a birthday tonight.
Oh, happy birthday.
To Paulina.
Happy birthday, Paulina. We do have administrative report tonight on the UIUC intergovernmental agreement.
Okay, so I'm going to walk you through the agreement a little bit while Lupe Ricconi, our Director of Multilingual Programs, comes forward. We shared with the board a very brief look at the multilingual programs at King. We felt there's been a lot of discussion around our families that live in Orchard Downs and the programming for ESL at King, that this would be a good time for the board to, especially our new board members, to have a little orientation about what actually happens at King as a little overview. So it is very short. But to the agreement first, this is an intergovernmental agreement between the district and the University of Illinois. As you can see, I'm not going to read this to you. Typically, we just kind of highlight certain parts of the agreement, so I just want to highlight a few things. This is an agreement that's been in place since 1994, so about almost 30 years. We have worked with them back and forth over the years, and the initial agreement was very specifically for the multicultural population that is at King School and across our district that is learning English as a second language. The University apartment property in Urbana, where many of the families, which is basically Orchard Downs, that property is exempt from city taxes, which is one of the reasons why we entered this agreement 29 years ago, to support the program, support services for people who are actually not paying property taxes. So there are people in the university apartments that speak English as a second language, and the agreement is basically to provide programming and assistance to those families and their students. So if you look at the second page, you can see the breakdown for the next 3 years. We've had multi-year agreements with them before. We did have a much larger agreement with them pre-COVID. As you know, during the pandemic, international families were not traveling and were not able to leave their countries to come to the U.S. So the numbers in the Orchard Downs King program diminished and decreased because of that, and our ESL numbers across the whole district were impacted. So we've been working with the university officials there to kind of reboot, and hopefully we have seen an increase in some of our international families coming back to the U.S. for graduate studies. I know they've seen an increase as well. So that is one of the reasons why you see in number 3, if we have growth of more than 20%, we'll come back to the table and revisit these terms through if it happens within the 3-year agreement. We meet with them every year. We talk about our numbers. Lupe does a great job of sharing the numbers, how we're providing services to the students, what we're doing with them for the native language classes. So we are really giving them an opportunity to understand where their $105,000 is going. The other thing I wanted to point out is both we and the university have the right to terminate the agreement without cause, with or without cause upon 90 days written notice. But I don't foresee that would happen. The team that we work with at UIUC is very collaborative, and we've had a lot of great conversations about how to strengthen the agreement, how can we collaboratively attract families back to travel and come back for graduate studies. So yeah, this is the terms of the UIUC agreement. So Lupe is going to give a very brief kind of program overview about King and just a few highlights about the program. So,
Thank you. Yes, I will try to go through these rather quickly. First, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to talk to you about the multilingual programs at King School. For any of you that have spent any time at King School, you know that it is a very special place in our district where the world literally goes to school. So I want to share with you a little bit about what happens there. So the King Elementary School has housed the multilingual program for what I've been able to decipher from some of my predecessors about 40 plus years. It housed a variety of different languages at the point where the Spanish speaking students and families grew large enough to have a bilingual program. That program was moved to Lille in 2002. Similar situation with our French Lingala families. When we grew to a point to require a transitional bilingual program, we moved that program to Yankee Ridge in 2018. So I won't go through these line by line, but what I do want to say is that our goals are absolutely high academic achievement, linguistic development, cultural understanding for both our students and our parents, as well as really building an environment that is welcoming from start to finish every single day for all of our families. In addition, I wanted to go over with you a little bit about who the multilingual students are that are at King School. So these numbers change daily. As you know, we live in a community that is very transient. So we get students, we leave students. Just today I got, multiple new students. So when I ran these on Friday, there's about 111 students at King School that either have another language in the home or they themselves speak another language. Of those students, as you can see, 91 of them still qualify for English language supports. Of those 91, about 45 of them live in Orchard Downs. We have other students in the district that also live at Orchard Downs, but specifically I'm referring to King School right now. King School has about 28 different languages present in their building, which is very exciting for our district. Another large language group that we have are Pashto Dari speaking students. We have about 28 of those. We have been able to hire a Pashto Dari speaking TA this year, which was something we had been looking for years. He is amazing. If you have not met him, I highly recommend you make contact with him. As well as we still have Mandarin Chinese speakers, as well as Arabic speakers as well at King School. So what does native language classes mean and what do they do? So in the King schedule, they have allotted out 35 to 45 minutes every day where students of these languages go and receive native language arts support. They work with the native language teachers on learning how to read and write in their native languages. Over the past 40 plus years, we've had a variety of different languages present at King School. Those are which languages we offer courses for are evaluated every year based on the number of students we have in those language groups. This year we offer Arabic, Pashto Dari, and Mandarin Chinese. We are seeing a growth in our Kazakh speaking population, so that is a possibility that will be another teacher that we're looking for in the future. And as I had mentioned, we have 3 amazing teachers, TAs, that support these classes. For our English as a Second Language programming that we also offer at King School, this program model has shifted over to a few different models over the past few years. When I started in the district back in 2009, we did a self-contained ESL program where students that were identified as ELs got pulled out for 1.5 to 2 hours a day from their homeroom class. We switched that to be a more inclusive model a few years ago, where the general classroom teachers had ESL endorsed, so they would have the kids all day. It's very hard this day and age with the number of emergent bilingual students we have in the U.S. to find ESL certified teachers. So during the pandemic, it was even harder. We did decide, partly for licensure, partly for enrollment, to switch to our current model, which is where we have a combined small group environment where students are either pulled out or ESL teachers are pushing in and co-teaching with classroom teachers. We currently have 4 teachers that support with that model. I wanted to just very quickly share some pictures of some of the amazing things that happen at King School. United Nations Day is something that has been celebrated at King School since as long as I have been in this district. Some of you may have seen what United Nations Day looks. It's a day where all of the countries that are present amongst the King School student body are celebrated and represented. These flags, if you go into the King School library, are all over the library, and that's where they live permanently, so anyone walking in can see the flags. The exciting part of United Nations Day for me is when they do the Parade of Nations. So I very quickly am going to just play this for you. So how this is determined is the oldest child in the building from that country gets to be the flag bearer that year. So this is something that they get very excited about. And every year this looks different. Which countries are represented is different. The lessons that are presented as a part of the presentation are different. It's a really exciting day for the building. Another special event that happens at King School is the Lunar New Year celebration. As I had mentioned before, over the years there has been a large Mandarin Chinese population in the building. Dr. Zhang, our Chinese native language teacher, does a great job, has always done a great job of getting the students together to do these amazing presentations for the building to really celebrate what Lunar New Year is in the building. I won't play this video because it is long, but if you want to go back and click on it, it is a very cute video about what, this is, I believe, from a couple years ago, about what the dragon dance looks like and how all of the kids in the building participate in this event.
We are well into the new year now.
Play. Oh, sorry. Oh, shoot. John, are we both clicking again? Okay, I'm done. Okay. The last thing I wanted to mention was just the type of professional development that has continued to occur at Dr. King School to help support these programs. We have a very strong connection with the local refugee center. They are there to help provide interpreting for languages that we do not have staff for. They have also shared some of their staff to help support for parent-teacher conferences every year, specifically Pashto Dari. Before we had French staff, Vietnamese staff, a variety of different languages. We were very grateful to have one of their Pashto staff come and actually do professional development with the King staff to really explain to them what the countries are like that they're coming from, some of the cultural differences, some things that teachers can be mindful of in the classroom. Another way is over the years we've offered ESL endorsement courses to the staff at King School, many of staff of which have taken us up on that and gotten their ESL endorsements themselves, even though they're not serving as the direct ESL teacher, but they wanted to know how to better support the students. We regularly offer professional development, either by our internal staff or myself or my coordinator to work with the teams, as well as Winter Institute and opening day this year. Ms. Smith actually worked with me to really be very specific and plan multicultural strands for the entire district to participate in, where we had outside presenters from all over the country sharing strategies and supports for teachers on how to improve their instruction for multilingual learners. Sharing specifically with the King staff how to plan their lessons around a sheltered instruction approach to make sure that their lessons are being taught in a way that makes the content very comprehensible for English language learners. As well as historically, we've had really great partnerships with the different cultural houses at the U of I. The Asian American House during Lunar New Year pre-pandemic would come and do lessons in the library and make sure that the students had a really good knowledge about Lunar New Year and customs. So I wanted to share this professional development slide with you because I know there has been discussion about, is King continuing to be the best fit? And the slide about professional development, to me, I kind of wanted to add, there's a lot of institutional knowledge at Dr. King's School with a staff that has been there for many, many years, that have gone above and beyond to make sure that they have acquired the skills to support this population. I'm not saying that that's not possible in another building, but it's kind of, if it's not broke, don't fix it. I just wanted to add that piece. But I'm here for any questions if anyone has any.
Any questions about Lupe's present or the agreement, if anyone had any?
I'll jump in if no one else will. So what enrollment threshold does it take, I guess, for us to start offering services for a new language?
Sure. So in order to have a transitional bilingual program, there has to be at least 20 students of a particular language housed in that building, which is where we reached for Spanish, we reached that for French, and technically we're there for Pashto as well. At King's School, we have always had our own internal guideline of if we have 5 or more students of the same language, we try to find a teacher TA to provide them native language class support. So that is where we are for Kazakh, which is why if anyone knows anyone that speaks Kazakh and would be interested in working with kids for half a day, we would love it.
Of the 91 kids, you said 45 of them come from Orchard Downs?
At King's School, yes.
Sorry, excuse me. So where do the other students come from? And do they come from just the King area or come from all over town?
All over the district.
And are they provided transportation?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, they're considered part of the special programming transportation, so as long as they live outside of 1.5 miles, they're given support at
So
King's School.
how are students and families new to the district identified and brought into the program?
Yep, so every family that registers in Urbana School District has one form that they all have to fill out called the Home Language Survey. This is an ISB required form. It has 2 questions on it. One of them, is there another language spoken in the home? The other, does your child speak another language? If a family answers yes to either of those questions, that triggers to my team that we need to do an English language screener with that child. These are screeners that are determined by ISB. We follow their guidelines, their proficiency targets. If a student tests below the proficiency target, then they're considered an ELL according to ISB guidelines, where we have to offer services. Families always have the right to decline services, but we're obligated to offer services.
Do you happen to know what percentage of families decline?
That waive service is completely, I don't have an exact number, but it is very small.
Thank you.
Yeah, occasionally what I will add is that at King's School we do have some Spanish speakers and French speakers that have waived French and Spanish dual language, but they still want ESL support, so they still choose to go to King. But even that is a smaller number, but it is an option for them.
Thank you.
How the redistricted is going to affect King's School and all the population?
At the moment, I mean, that's a question for you all as far as redistricting.
Yeah, John, I don't know if you want to take it, but I can. Right now, the King, did you hear Silali's question? Yeah, okay.
Silali nomás.
How is King being impacted by the redistricting, the moving around of the students?
for students moving in and out, you can see here on this chart. So for King under concept 1, there would be about 67 students going to King from those two schools. And then under concept 2, it would be about 36 students from those 3 schools.
And John, to follow up, do we have students moving from King to other buildings with the redistricting? I think that's what Silali is asking.
Top row, and no for concept 2, and then concept 1 also.
You are moving kids from Yankee Ridge and Thomas Paine into Keene, and they don't want to follow for example, if there is a French speaker who doesn't want to move, is going to go to Keene and receive all the services that you mentioned?
With any of our programs, if a family opts out of the program that we're recommending, be that dual language or ESL services, the protocol is that they then go to their home school. So whatever the new boundaries are, if I'm a French speaker that I guess lives in Lille area, but I want ESL at King, then we would send them to King. Or if they are in French dual language at Yankee Ridge and the program, I don't know, moves to Thomas Paine and they don't want to go to Thomas Paine, then they would go to their home school.
And just to be clear, these students who are moving to King in those two charts, the 67 in concept 1, and I think it was 36 in concept 2, those are the monolingual speaking students at Yankee Ridge.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? Nope. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lupe.
Next up is our transportation overview. So that's going to be led by Katie.
Okay, I'm up. First of all, I'd like to invite Shawnee Langley and Dawn Friedman up if you'd like to come sit up front. I didn't want to put them on the spot, and I was prepared to present the whole night, but if you did have any specific questions about our program with First Student that I can't answer, then they offered to come and be here with us. So thank you so much for your time tonight, and really appreciate it, and glad to see you guys out and about in the community and not just in the dispatch center and driving the buses. So this presentation is because at the beginning of the year when the board members were polled for topics, one of the topics involved behavior on UMS buses specifically. So rather than just focusing only on that, I put together more of a comprehensive overview of our transportation program, and then it kind of ends with that behavior management piece that we can talk more about and get into a little more details on. So nearly 60% of our students in the district are eligible for transportation, which means they live 1.5 miles or more away from the school that they are assigned to attend. And that equates to approximately 2,600 students in the district. Oh boy. Do you want me to navigate the slides? Sorry.
That's okay, sorry.
Okay, cool. So this is the outline of the topics that I'll be covering tonight. So we'll go over the regular transportation program, touch on some of our fleet and facilities, talk about our current driver staffing levels, touch a little bit on routes and schedules, transportation fund financial overview, and then finally we'll end with student management and discipline. This is our fearless leaders at First Student. So pictured above are Shawnee Langley, the new location manager for this year that just started this year in Urbana. Welcome. We've got Dawn Friedman, the operations manager, and Anisha Potet. I don't know how to say her last name, I'm sorry. And she's our new dispatcher router for the district, and she's the one that answers the phone when we call, so she's been really great to work with. So we are required by, sorry, I was still on that slide, sorry. We are required by school code to provide students who live more than 1.5 miles from school transportation services to and from their home address. In addition, we also provide transportation if a student lives in a board-designated hazard area, which is reviewed annually in October, which is currently approximately 23 students. We also provide transportation services for homeless students and they are allowed to continue at their school of origin, and transportation is provided if the student lives more than 1.5 miles away from the school. We use 2 primary transportation contractors for our program, First Student and MTD. And we have a 50-year history with First Student. It started over the various iterations of what that company has been named, but it was Ryder originally. They got bought by Mayflower, then it was Laidlaw, and now it's First Student. So it's really an amazing partnership that we've had. We work really well together, and really glad to highlight some of our successes tonight. The other provider that we work with have for many, many years as well, in addition to First Student, is Champaign-Urbana Mass Transit District. And CUMTD provides services for our middle school and high school students that live along the regular gray, green, bronze, gold, and orange routes. Services provided by MTD utilize the established and published public routes that are available for others in the area as well. The contract historically was based on total secondary student enrollment, but just as of last year, we worked with MTD to update that contract so that it's now based on the number of service hours that MTD is providing. And some of that change was to allow us some additional flexibility when we want to make route changes. And the use of MTD transportation services is at a cost that is operationally effective for the district, and we appreciate our collaborative partnership. So now I'll just review briefly our fleet and facilities. First Student currently houses 38 buses in our fleet. 33 are regular routes, and then we have 1/3 special ed, and 2/3 of those routes are regular and pre-K buses. We also have 5 spare buses. 1 is a wheelchair bus, 1 is a pre-K bus, and then we have 3 field trip buses for athletics and other field trips in the district. So those are kind of like our on-call spare buses that are not supposed to be part of the regular routes. We are bound by some pretty severe site constraints at our bus garage. The number of spaces that we have available for buses, you can see in this aerial photo that I grabbed from the GIS map, that this is basically the space that we have available. Many staff for First Student currently park across the street and walk to the bus garage because there's not really places for the drivers to park and the staff to park. In previous iterations of this relationship, we actually leased the bus garage to First Student, but then they build it back on our contract. So the use of those facilities are just an expectation and part of that contract. So and that's a good working relationship that we both benefit from. But if they needed more space, then we'd have to probably start paying to lease additional space outside of what we can provide. And then I don't know if you wanted to, I gave you that folder of, so Josh, who's Shawnee's boss, actually has a drone, and he came out and took some neat drone photos of the facility just last Friday. So I just thought maybe John could flip through some of those so you could just get a different feel for, I'm sorry, John, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. So there's the bus garage. So some of our buses are able to park underneath the awning and some aren't. It's kind of like Tetris, get them all in there. Very cool.
Boring Tetris because they're all the same shape.
I like it.
They're different sizes, actually.
Yeah, there you go. Awesome. Okay, well, that was it for that slide. And then just one more view there of the, from the road. So moving on. Now I'd like to touch briefly on staffing levels. This has been a major challenge for the last several years since COVID. So a fully staffed for first student is about 37 drivers. That would be 33 regular route drivers, plus an additional 4 standby drivers. So they like to have about a 10% threshold of standby drivers. And Shawnee could speak a little bit more to the process to become a certified CDL bus driver, but it's a long process, and there's lots of phases and tests that they have to go through. So we started this school year, the beginning of this school year, we only had 25 drivers on staff. We were down 12 drivers from our full staffing level, which was a huge challenge. Luckily, First Student is really great at coming up with creative solutions. We wound up combining some routes to ensure that all students could continue to be transported at the beginning of the year. And the best news that I have to share tonight is we are currently fully staffed for bus drivers. Woohoo! We have 38 drivers.
Yes.
And 3 additional staff in the First Student office can also drive. So we actually have a pool of 41 drivers right now. And of course, Shawnee has been really instrumental in a lot of these changes and improvements that we've been able to make. So I really am thankful for her leadership at the First Student office this year. So thank you. That's really great news. I mean, we haven't been able to say that for years. And other districts are not saying that, so we feel very lucky. But I'm sure we're always accepting applications. But
Still doing it. Still got some in training.
so I don't want to, anybody listening, we're ready. We're ready for you. So briefly on routes and on schedules, in spring of 2023, we actually implemented a new app called First View. It's an app that parents can subscribe to for real-time GPS bus tracking, notifications, and messaging. So the information about that is actually on the transportation page of our website. So if you want more information, you can log in to the website, and then you'll have to access a district code, which you can get from your building secretary. And this view is just another image of what you can actually see on the app. So this was actually, I pulled up the app, and this is the actual route of the Thomas Paine PM route on 229 when I pulled it up for the presentation. And so that's every stop that the bus made along that route or whatever, along its way. So whatever bus number that is, Dawn probably knows. So again, if you're watching this at home, if that's something that you would find interesting, the feedback that I've gotten of parents that use it is they like it. So it's just another opportunity for us to communicate with families about schedules and routes. Just a brief overview of the financials of our transportation fund. So the transportation fund is one of our levied funds. It's one of the property tax sources that we levy from taxpayers. The above figures display the budgeted figures for FY24. Note that these are rough rounded numbers because this is just the budget at this point. But you could see on the revenue side, we're budgeting our transportation tax levy will fund $1.8 million. Then we also have about $800,000 coming from the state transportation claim. That's state funding that supports transportation. And that's both for special education and regular ed combined to that $800,000. And then also some of our federal and state grant funds also support transportation of students to programs like Splash and things like that, where they build the transportation costs into those grants. So that's the basic on the revenue side. On the expense side, I kind of broke it down 2 ways. You're still looking at the same thing, but one is just by contract. So our First Student contract makes up the majority of our spending, so about $2.3 million. The MTD contract is around $200,000, and then other types of transportation services, such as cost towards our activity buses, which is very minimal, taxi services for homeless students or others that are waiting for bus service to start for the first couple days, or other residential transportation that we provide as some of our special ed services. That's probably making up the most of that. And then the other way I broke that down was just by regular special ed and non-reimbursable transportation. So non-reimbursable is going to be your athletic trips, your field trips that are non-claimable. There's quite a bit of those kinds of trips that we do in the district. The regular is just the regular home to school. And then in addition, in the non-reimbursable is the portion that isn't actually being reimbursed by the state transportation claims. So I was going to give you a little bit more detail on what that really means. So the state provides reimbursement for transportation for eligible students whether or not they actually receive transportation. If they actually opt into transportation, it's just whether or not they're eligible. We can claim transportation on the state claim. Although when I looked into it, like 58% of that 60%-ish of our students that are eligible ride the bus. So vast majority of our students that are eligible do ride the bus. Based on FY23 actual figures of a total of 2.5 million in total expenditures. So we're budgeting 2.8 this year, but our actual expenditures last year were 2.5. The most recent state transportation claim reimbursement amount was a total of 777,000. So we had 1.7 million in allowable regular and special ed costs. Then the state reimbursement amount is an allocation rate of 80% of that, minus an adjustment for district wealth, which functions as an equalizer for districts with adequate local resources, that they already have adequate local resources available, so they get less state funding. And that's a calculation based on your district's EAV and your tax rate. But ultimately, after those prorations and adjustments, the calculation netted to a state reimbursement for transportation of $777,000. And then, sorry, I did add up some additional. 800,000 was non-reimbursable, which was athletic trips, non-curricular activities, and after-school programs. In addition to the transportation claim, 200,000 is covered by other grants, and the remaining amount is covered by the tax levy. Any questions about the financial side of the transportation fund? All right, that just brings us to our last topic here, which is behavior management. So another challenge that we face this year and every year is bus behavior. And for student, we have had 539 write-ups since September. The graphic that's displayed on the screen is just the write-ups that we've had for UMS buses with MTD. Sorry, I had a different little script to read for this part, and I can't find it. There, yeah, thank you, John. Okay. So we've had 111 incidents since August 2021. Because I kind of wanted to just kind of show the post-COVID kind of activity, because it was pretty minimal the year before that when it was being tracked. But 44 of those incidents have occurred since September of 2023, to try to make it comparable with that number I just gave out for first student. The expectation for student behavior is that the bus is an extension of the school. So all families receive the bus rules and expectations as part of registration process. The building administrators or the principals are responsible for student behavior management and assigning consequences and discipline for student behavior on the buses. We have worked with both of our contractors to help problem solve student bus behavior issues, which has included Shawnee assigned seating charts to all of our buses at the beginning of the year. That made a big difference in some of the behavioral concerns we've had. We also have assigned additional support personnel to key routes where we've been experiencing the most issues. We've worked with First Student to add additional monitors to those routes as well. We're working on adding some additional student incentives to help incentivize positive behaviors. And we also have worked on splitting some of our routes, which was a real impossibility with the driver shortage. But now that we're fully staffed, we're able to kind of split some of those routes where we're experiencing those problems and just get the number of students on the buses down, which has made a big difference. So all of those things have come together, and I think that we're seeing some real positive changes in some of our behavior on the buses. We're currently also in the process. Our process right now is a paper form process when there is an incident on the bus, and there's maybe a one-day lag. You know, unless it's really severe, then there's a lot of phone calls. But you know, for some of the more minor safety issues with, it's all any sort of things, but. You know, just a lot of foul language or standing on the bus or not staying seated and things like that. Those types of write-ups would come to the principal the first thing the next morning so that they're aware of it. But going forward, we're working with First Student. They actually have an app available to us called First Acts that would be real-time information that as soon as the driver were to key it into the system, instead of writing it on a piece of paper, they press submit, goes straight to the building administrators immediately. So we're going to be piloting that at Thomas Paine any time now. And as soon as we've done that, as long as we feel comfortable, we get any kinks worked out, we're hoping to implement it in all of the district in the spring, or in the fall, excuse me. Also, one of the board members asked for some details about the key, the legend that's on this chart and a couple of the descriptions, and MTD, this is data that MTD is tracking internally, and they shared the numbers with me so I could include it in the presentation. But when it says video on there, that's when a school employee has requested the video footage. So it's not duplicating the other items. So like if there was a fight, that's being recorded as a fight. But in some instances, like maybe a student comes to school and reports to their principal, like, hey, there was this problem on the bus this morning, and there wasn't a different incident about it, but the administrator has reached out and requested video footage to figure out what happened. That's what the video request indicator is on the legend. Counsel is when a supervisor discussion with school staff happened for any other reason, such as like bus passes, placement on the bus, which bus to ride, problem riders, route planning for riders, et cetera. So like that's going to be more speaking with like building secretaries or building administrators to problem solve an issue that they're having, but it's not falling into really an incident as much. And then the incident is really just a general issue on the bus that didn't fit into any of these other categories. So that could be like larger rowdy crowds, large messes that were left on the bus from students, rudeness, or other types of behavior that wasn't really a fight, that didn't qualify as a fight. So hopefully that gave you some context on how to interpret that legend as well. So with that, I open it up for any questions you may have. I might not have the answers, but we've got our leadership here from First Student and some of the folks in the room that know a lot more about student discipline than I do, which may be some of the other questions that arise.
Board members, any questions? I'll step in. Since I want to thank you guys for being here. If our contract were on the table and there are things you could ask, that would assist you in management of our transportation services, what would that be?
Good question. I think my biggest question is you guys are talking about adding Wiley as an extra school, and my thing about adding Wiley, it may add more routes, more buses, but
Well, right now we're looking at Wiley as being a 6th grade center next year, right. So it would basically follow on to any drop-offs that are made at UMS.
Okay. I don't have any questions.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. I think that's it then.
Well, thank you. And if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out anytime, and I'll do my best to answer them.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much for coming.
I also want to say Dawn is a parent.
Yes.
She's had 3 students. Oh, you have a UHS grad, and you have 1 at UHS now.
I have 3 at UHS
3
and
HS.
1 grad.
Yes. So.
Huh? I've been working for First Student for 23.
Actually,
She's the backbone of the
before I let you go, so I thought of another question. I hope I got you here. In terms of our current transportation system and how we're sending kids, across town in different ways, what's the biggest challenge, I guess, for you as operating as in our current configuration?
I think for me, it's been the overflow. The overflow has been a big issue for years, and it's getting worse.
So what do you mean by the overflow?
The DPW overflow.
Like Dr. Williams is overflowed, so then we had to take him to to Yankee Ridge and some to Thomas Paine, and then Thomas Paine became overflowed in some grades, and now they have to go, so we've got 4 or 5 buses in one area that should only have 1 or none at all.
So when you have kids
So
who
it's been logistical nightmare.
Right. So when you have kids, so when you have kids who go to a different school because of overflow, do you have to drive all over the neighborhood to pick them up then, or is it just from one spot?
I mean, we do corners, safe corners, but yes. Yeah.
And does that mean you have to adjust the routes basically all along the school year as enrollments change?
A little bit, yeah. Yeah, we've had to do quite a few, and then people get upset because we've had to change it so much, but we can't help it. So yeah, the biggest issue I think for us is just the overflow and dealing with how it's working, and it's not anybody's fault. It's just trying to figure it all out.
All right, thank you.
Paul,
you go ahead.
yeah,
What did you say?
that was one of my questions that I had sent about if we do the redistricting, how would that look as far as additional buses or less buses? And I did get a response about that it actually, because of what you just said, with the overflow, that there would actually be, you know, less of a problem, less buses.
I've had to get really creative, because I actually do all the routing for the district, and so you have to get creative, and sometimes you just have to kind of make things work. So in one of the hot zones, which is Ivanhoe, we've had to pull a Leo bus picking up Dr. Williams kids because the 2 Dr. Williams buses were overflowed. So you kind of just have to get creative and make sure they get to school though.
Well, and the numbers I included in that board email that I sent earlier today with some of these questions, all of the figures for that is from Dawn. So thank you, Dawn, for helping me pull some of those numbers together. But you know, we have what I think I should share publicly in this forum is that we have about 130 non-special ed students that live in that specific neighborhood that are currently being transported by 5 buses to 4 different elementary schools. I mean, that's going to be a real difference if we redistrict. You know, potentially those students would ride 2 buses, 1 to a neighborhood school and 1 to a dual language school. So we're going to see a lot of those constraints that we're having now be alleviated in some specific neighborhoods, but also in the Dr. Williams neighborhood specifically, because there's a lot of monolingual students that are being overflowed to other schools that actually are in walking distance to that school. So that's going to be a large number of students that won't need to be bused at all anymore. So those conversations, I think, have been really positive about some of the redistricting needs as far as transportation goes.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Thanks again.
Thank you.
You too.
All right, and then now an overview of our contract extension.
Well, as Paul indicated, we do have a contract on the table with First Student. So we're just bringing this to you tonight for a first read. We plan to bring it back at the regular business meeting in March for approval. I just wanted to make sure that it was out in front of you. If you did have any questions or concerns, that we could discuss them tonight. What I indicated in the email I sent earlier today is, well, and I guess I should say for those following at home, First Student has provided us with a proposal for a 3-year contract for the first year being a 14.9% increase over our current rates, and the 2 years following that at 4% and 4%. And that may seem high, but it's actually a favorable renewal. When we renewed the last time, we were seeing neighboring districts with contractors in the 20 to 30% increase range, and we're already seeing contractors in the 20% range for this year. So I think that our longstanding relationship and the renewals that we've worked with First Student on over the years have really gotten us to a place like, yes, 14.9% seems large in year 1, but having that stability in years 2 and 3 of knowing what to expect, you know, I think that it's actually a very favorable renewal, and it goes to show that, you know, we haven't fallen behind where some of these other districts are getting these much larger increases in 1 year.
Anybody have questions about the contract? One quick one. Yeah, I know that we were applying for the grant, possibly for the electric bus. If that comes through and if the board decides to go forward with that, how would that affect this contract?
At this point, I don't have any information about that. They extended the deadline but I mean, these contracts can all be amended. So if that were to need to be done, we would bring that back to discuss. But right now, this doesn't include anything about the electric buses. This is with our regular program and all of our current existing buses, which our buses can't be more than 10 years old according to our specs. So I think the contract goes through some language about updating the fleet and stuff like that as well, or the proposal does. So, but that doesn't include any of them becoming electric buses at this point in time. So if we do receive the grant and I have any financial information to bring to you about whether or not it's even feasible to do it, we can have all those discussions. But right now we haven't even heard anything because they extended the deadline, so everything's just delayed, and I'm not even sure when we'll hear about it or whatever. It could be a long time.
Right.
But good question.
Anyone else? Again, this is going to come before us at our next meeting for approval?
That's my plan. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, we have a long list of action items this evening. This happens every year where we provide notification to staff members who are being dismissed, typically because of lack of grant funding or uncertainty about grant funding. I guess you might give a quick overview of the process.
Happy
Angie?
to do that. So a RIF stands for reduction in force, and it's something that happens unfortunately every year, but typically the folks that are on this list are used to being on that list because we have to wait for grant funding to come in. And so the difference between a RIF and a non-renewal is really job performance. So in terms of RIFs, all of these staff members are highly valued and are performing very well. And that's not any concern. We want to bring all of them back. The plan is right now to bring all of them back. There's a couple of different things that we have to wait on for the district. So in terms of the college and career coordinator at the high school, we're working on our budget funding. That was an ESSER funded position to be able to transfer that position into another funding source. Class size adjustment TAs are RIFed every year because we have to wait for student enrollment in the fall to determine how many we need and where we will need them, which classroom. We have a teacher vacancy grant position, an early childhood grant position that we're waiting on funding to come back. We have several positions for our freedom schools, part-time positions that we're waiting to get funding again. And then also there's a grant with the farm to school. So we have a couple positions that are in there as well. So it is our hope, and I mean, we're planning on all of these things returning. There are no RIFs for adult education this year. And so unfortunately, this is just part of the process. All of the people are informed beforehand. They know it's coming. We try to make sure that they're not stressed out. Unfortunately, it just happens every year.
Yeah, we're required by school code to do this by March 15th, I believe.
Correct.
45 days before the last day of school.
Okay,
Yes.
Which is typically this time of year.
Yep.
When I first started on the board, this list was actually typically much longer and broader. So I appreciate the work that HR does to try to, and administration in general does to try to minimize this as much as possible.
Yeah, we really do. That's why we even pulled another one today. When things are coming in, we don't want anybody on this list.
And we appreciate all these people. But
Yep. Okay.
To that end, will be a series of motions here that all require roll call votes, and I will request a motion to be made for each one of them. The first one is a resolution authorizing honorable dismissal of a grant-funded teacher as a college career readiness coordinator. Is there a motion for the floor?
I move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Member Baxley?
Yes.
Member Langendorf, yes. Member Staton? Vice President Exum?
Yes.
President Pulowski?
Yes. Our second is a resolution authorizing honorable dismissal of a part-time, non-tenured, grant-funded teacher. This is a newcomer teacher. Is there a motion for the floor?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Member Staton? Member Langendorf, yes. Member Baxley?
Yes.
Vice President Exum?
Yes.
President Pulowski?
Yes. 9.3 is a resolution authorizing honorable dismissal of a full-time educational support personnel. This is a class size adjustment teaching assistant. Is there a motion for the floor?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Member Langendorf, yes. Member Staton?
Yes.
Member Baxley?
Yes.
Vice President Exum?
Yes.
President Pulowski?
Yes. 9.5 is a resolution authorizing honorable dismissal of a full-time grant-funded educational support personnel. This is a SPED teaching assistant. Is there a motion for the floor?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Member Baxley?
Yes.
Member Staton?
Yes.
Member Langendorf, yes. Vice President Exum?
Yes.
President Pulowski?
Yes. 9.6 is a resolution authorizing honorable dismissal of a full-time grant-funded educational support personnel. These are two positions, substitute teacher for district-wide trainer and bilingual home visitor. Is there a motion for the floor?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Member Staton?
Yes.
Member Langendorf, yes. Member Baxley?
Yes.
Vice President Exum?
Yes.
President Pulowski?
Yes, and 9.7 is a resolution authorizing dismissal of part-time grant-funded educational support personnel. These are 5 positions throughout the district. Is there a motion for the floor?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Member Baxley?
Yes.
Member Staton?
Yes.
Member Langendorf, yes. Vice President Exum?
Yes.
President Pulowski?
Yes, thank you. We do have one study topic tonight, and that's the discussion about our Subdistrict 2 Board of Education member vacancy. So, yeah, first of all, start by thanking Member Hasanaka for his service to the district. Always came to these meetings sharp and prepared, and his constituent service was second to none on this board, and he will be missed. But we are required by law to replace the board member within 60 days of receiving notice of the board vacancy, which would place that sometime, I think April 26th is the last possible day to do this, but I think we want to do this quicker than that if possible. So we'll be accepting applications for the seat, and they're the same requirements that you would have to run for the seat, which is listed. I forget where it is. Oh, there it is. Yeah, you have to be a U.S. citizen, be at least 18 years of age, be a resident of Illinois in the district for 1 year immediately preceding the appointment, be a resident of Subdistrict 2, be a registered voter, not be a child sex offender, not hold a different incompatible public office, not have prohibitive interest in any contract with the district, and not hold certain types of prohibited federal or state employment. So, go ahead.
Since I run for election, I have something that kind of itches my mind. Why do we have to have a United States citizen or a citizenship status and a school board that represents the kids?
It's a legal requirement. I concur with the statement, but we're following the law.
Okay, as a board, I think we can push that law.
Push the law?
Yeah.
Oh, we could certainly lobby the state to
Yeah.
change the law. We could certainly pass a resolution asking for that to be modified.
I feel like it should be something that we as a board could talk and as a district could talk, because I don't feel that it's fair that we are representing a multilingual, multicultural immigrant community and we don't have the right for them to express their voice.
I concur with that sentiment personally, but and we could certainly discuss ways we could lobby our legislators to make modifications.
That would be helpful. Thank you.
Okay, I mean, so to that, how we've developed this in the past is we've taken some period of time to collect applications from people in the particular empty subdistrict, and then we've typically had opportunity for the public to pose questions of the candidates in a public forum setting, and then the board would then meet also with the candidates in a closed session meeting immediately following the forum, and then the board would make a decision and vote on a replacement that same night. So what will be helpful, I guess, in terms of our discussion is trying to find a time when all of us could meet outside of a regular board meeting to schedule a special session to do the public forum. Hopefully we can get the Women's League of Voters to do it again, because I think they do a fantastic job. But so like to propose dates. And we were typically looking at the off Tuesdays that don't have board meetings. And I personally, I would like to get this done prior to voting on the maps in April, so that sub-district has a voice in that vote, which is currently scheduled for April 16th. So I would like to do it prior to April 16th, which so that April 9th would probably be the last possible Tuesday we could do it. Other than that, we're looking then at possibly the last Tuesday in March. Correct? That would not be a board meeting, which would be the
March 26th, but I think Member Langendorf is out of town that week.
And I'm also not available on the 9th. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So Alternatively, we could look at other nights as well. But so and we don't have Lola's dates either. But
Are you available that week, Sherry, of the 9th? If we did not do it on a Tuesday?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Just that one day isn't something for me.
So we could do a with Lola not being here.
okay, so we could at least set a window though for the public for the application deadline.
Oh, definitely.
Even if we don't have the forum
Mhm.
date set quite yet.
We can have the application up as soon as tomorrow on the website for people to, they need to pick them up from Lori, has been our past practice.
Okay, so today would be the 5th. So if we could say we take applications for
Starting March 6th.
2 weeks, it would be the 20th. So
Do you want to go longer than that?
Well, remember spring break is, a
Yeah,
lot of
it's
people
part of
will
that
be
week.
traveling during spring break and not here.
Yeah,
So.
I think we do at least 3 weeks.
Last week of March.
okay, we could take applications through the 27th, and we'll have to schedule the forum as soon as possible, maybe between then and April 12th.
So until March 26th, we have?
Applications accepted through March 26th. If that seems acceptable to the board.
Okay.
Yep.
So March 6th through March 26th, got it.
And then we will doodle polls, try to schedule time and all the board members are available for a special session between then and April 12th.
Are there any other days that people are not available after April 9th?
That's a good.
So 10th, 11th, we could even do, I don't know, depending on how many candidates we have, we could do a lunchtime special meeting, or we've done those before, but not very often.
No, we also need to schedule
The interviews.
Well, we also need to allow the public to submit questions, which is something we've done in the past. So you typically have done that online. We've also allowed for people to submit them
During the forum.
During the forum, and then the league typically screens them at a time.
Is that something we could open up, like with the application, the question?
I think as soon as we get the date figured out, we can announce how those questions could be submitted. We can announce that social media and online before our next board meeting if it's decided before then.
You mean for the league forum? Yeah.
Yeah, we need to request the league to do this, and they'll only do it if they get 2 or more applicants anyway. But
Sure.
But we would need to request it and ask them to do it.
We've done it both ways. We've done Zoom, virtual, and in person. So is the board's preference to have the forum in person?
I think
I
so.
prefer.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
Just asking, because we've done it
I mean,
both ways.
frankly, like a mixed if we did it even like a hybrid format, I think it gives it an advantage to the people who are in person and disadvantage to the Zoom candidates.
Okay, so in person.
Any other questions about how to do this?
Are there any days that are, for the interviews that are off limits? Like, if we can't find a weekday, are people willing to do? I know we've done things on Sundays we don't like to, but we have. So we'll see what we can get weekdays first.
I'll clear my calendar for this.
Okay.
Yep.
And with Lola not being here, we'll just kind of
Yeah, we'll have to get
start
her
in that
input.
way. Okay.
No.
Okay. So tomorrow, we'll put directions on how to pick up your application online, on socials, on our website. Those usually come directly pick up from Lori and to Lori.
So you'll be able to pick up physically, but also electronically, I'm assuming?
We've always done physical. They always have had to come and pick it up in person.
Oh, really? Okay. Is there a reason for that? Is there a legal constraint, or?
It's just what we've always done.
I think that we should make it as easy as possible to apply and make it available electronically.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Yep.
I mean, we could request that if that they submitted it to you in writing, or an email or something to give you a heads up. But I think it's. I mean, John, you could probably come up with a quick form so people could say, I'm picking one up, and click a button, and then it gets downloaded, so we can have a record of somebody.
Yeah, that's
downloading
easy
it.
enough. Just to be clear, like you want them to still request an application and it to be given to them electronically,
Yes.
not just made available.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you put an email in and, yeah.
That kind of thing. Yeah. Yep. Right.
Sounds good.
Okay. So I think you have enough direction.
Yeah, I think we have enough direction, and we'll nudge you for the doodle poll.
Okay. Right. So there is no call for future special or executive meetings. Superintendent's report.
Okay. All right, so last night we celebrated the installation of a new student-created mural at Urbana High School. So this grouping of students includes a couple of 2023 grads, as well as some current students. So if you did not have an opportunity to stop by and see the mural yet, it's been up for about 2 weeks. We put it up on the day of Winter Institute. So last night was basically the opening event. The event was a collaborative project through Teen Art Council, Teen Open Lab, Urbana Free Library, Dream Girls Academy, Teens in Action, Urbana Freedom School students participated, and the UHS Art Club. So it is absolutely beautiful. So when you're visiting UHS, you just come in door 1 and walk straight down the south hallway, and it kind of takes up that whole hallway. So it's really spectacular. So kudos to the students who worked on that. Read Across America was this past Saturday, and thank you, Member Langendorf, for your organization and your participation in that event every year. Here are a few people. There's Sid Lally, Principal Jackson from Thomas Paine, Miss Webster, our family engagement coordinator, the director, for the district, Imani Carr, assistant principal at Dr. Williams, and then Deshaun Williams, a parent at Yankee Ridge who, with his family, who attended the event, and Sid Lally with one of the organizers from Volunteers from Altrusa. So thanks to everyone for all of their hard work. It takes a lot of volunteers to pull this event off. And there were lots of celebrity readers. Salali was a reader for the event. And so it was a great event, really large crowd. More than 700 children came to the event with their families or friends. So great day. And the weather was absolutely beautiful. There's no excuse for people not to come out. The UHS Band's 100th anniversary alumni reunion high school bands program is scheduled for April 19th through 20th. There is a fantastic Google site that has been created to celebrate the alumni reunion by one of our parents and band boosters. So we have it linked there. They're inviting alumni back to play in a special performance. We're going to invite lots of people in to see the band room and thank our donors at the same time. So anybody interested in being part of that, please follow that link to register. The UHS Science Olympian team placed 3rd place in regionals and qualified for state, so congrats. Urbana won a total of 29 medals, including 1st place medals for Simon Hamilton, Anika Draskow, Hazel Tracy in Earth and Science events, Cecilia Birdsley and Amelia McCarver in forestry, JJ Lee and Cameron Hilton in robotics, and Beatrice Biggs and Colin Guth in wind power. The State Olympiad will be held on April 20th at the U of I. So congrats to all of our UHS students. So next, I wanted to just highlight a few of the questions that we received. I did want to thank 103 people who visited the public input sessions between day 1 and day 2. We did have some repeat people in there who attended both nights, so we appreciate the interest, and we definitely appreciate a lot of the feedback and the questions that we received. John and I met with the RSP folks and kind of talked about some of these questions again. We looked at some of the verbal feedback that we received. We haven't received any survey data yet because, again, the survey is open until the 15th. But we did kind of review some of the public feedback that we received that night. These FAQ questions basically represent questions that we received on the first night and the second night. Most of them are from the first evening, and I want to make sure we just kind of go through them really quickly because there were people who asked these questions during the first public input who may not have heard the answer if they didn't come back on the second day. So I'll just go through these very quickly. There were questions about Thomas Paine. There were several families who attended public input night 1 and noticed that there was no mention of Thomas Paine in the pro and con areas of the presentations related to the cross-categorical and life skills program. We've heard a lot of public comment about that in the past weeks, and so we gave that feedback to RSP, and he corrected that, our consultant Rob Schwartz, on night 2 and made sure that the cross-categorical program was mentioned in the presentation. So it is true, people who brought it to our attention on night 1, that there are instructional spaces, sensory spaces, a adaptive playground, and other very specific parts of the Thomas Paine building that were renovated to support the needs of the special education programs at Thomas Paine. And so we appreciate the families who pointed that out, and we made sure that that made it into the updated, revised presentation for night 2. Next, we had a question: if DL is at Yankee Ridge, what school will the intensive instruction program be moved to? So currently we have a program at Yankee Ridge. It is called the intensive instruction program. It used to be called the behavior disability program, the EBD program. It has had several different iterations of names, but it is a program for our students who do experience significant challenges with managing their behavior in regular classroom settings. Right now the program is very small. It does occupy 2 classrooms, and there are about 5 students there currently. The parent who was asking us about this on night 1 wanted to know where's that program going to be, and we of course right now could not give her a definitive answer because it will depend on which school is selected for dual language. Following that selection, we will look at where everyone else is being redistricted to and make a decision about where would be the best place to house the intensive instruction program for the future. We will make sure that any families impacted are notified and have an opportunity to visit the new school before the end of the year. Next is John and I are going to kind of tag team these. So John's going to take this one.
Yeah. So there are a couple questions kind of specifically about the maps and the numbers. These are all related to the maps that, if people at home haven't looked at, were distributed in the presentation and then separately in emails that went out to families and are posted on the website. So one of the questions we got a couple times on the first night was about the maps kind of being more choppy. When we did board district redistricting, you might remember the measures of compactness. So while these do have some like islands in them, both concept maps are substantially more compact than the existing attendance boundaries. So that's something that RSP was trying to work through. And then the second question that we got was about the numbers being higher for average class sizes. And just to be clear, across the district, the number of students at all the elementary schools isn't changing, and the number of classrooms isn't changing, so the average class size is going to remain the same. That said, because there are currently some classes that are very small, which pushes some class sizes much larger, both of those would come a little closer to the mean, and the kind of class size would be more consistent across the district.
Okay. So both concept maps show Orchard Downs remaining at King School. Wouldn't it be better for the students in the multicultural program to be moved to Leo instead, since it's closer? I think Lupe did a great job tonight talking about the rich history. At this point, we had not done the math when we created this slide, so since then we've figured out the program has been at King for almost 40 years. There are 91 students, as you heard tonight, and one of the concerns is currently the additional spaces that would be needed at Leo, if it were at Leo, the instructional spaces needed for the students. As Lupe shared tonight, and Paul asked that really great question of when do we add more services, and as those numbers grow, we have to have space to have those additional native language and heritage classes. I mean, we've had heritage classes for Vietnamese and Lao and Indonesian and, you know, Japanese and Korean. And so if at any time, if we have 20 or more students in a group, then we are required to offer additional classes and supports for those students. And so right now, King is, that works at King, and King is not going to be changed very much based on their functional capacity. So there would be space to provide those additional classes at King, but not at Leo. We already talked about the ESL endorsements and PD that the King teachers have. This was another fair point that we thought we should point out is currently all the students that participate in the Orchard Downs program, they qualify for transportation. Were we to move the program to Leo, they would no longer qualify for transportation, and those students would be walking from Orchard Downs to Leo. Having worked with that population and a lot of our international families as principal of King School, I can tell you right now, when we have families who are very learning a new language and developing their linguistic skills, a lot of those families are not going to feel comfortable having students who speak no English walking that far by themselves. It is also difficult to navigate public transportation, and so we just feel continuing to have the program at King and being able to provide yellow bus service for those students is basically the right thing to do.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Plus, more than half of the students live other places.
Absolutely.
In the community too.
Yep.
need
And
bus
they would get
service as
busing.
well.
Yeah.
So, you're not gonna have those students go to the school that's closest to them.
Right.
So they all have to be at one location.
Yes. Yep. Good point. The French dual language program is grouped with the whole dual language school in all of the information that RSP shared on both nights of public input. So there was a very direct question asking why were we doing that? And so the very direct answer is it is what our French and Lingala families have indicated to us that is what they want. We have had a meeting with the leadership from the Congolese community. Lupe, Joe, and I met with them. We also provided a Zoom on a Saturday morning for families from the French bilingual BPAC, basically the bilingual BPAC for the French families. And all the families that participated in that Zoom also indicated that they prefer to be with the whole dual language school. They also prefer that program, of course, remains at Yankee Ridge because that is where they currently are, and they would they don't want to move. But I think the spirit of this question was why were we grouping the French and Spanish population together in the whole dual language school, and it's basically because that's what the French Lingala families have said that's what they would like to see. These other bullets basically are just kind of saying what we've been saying about if we provide a multicultural space, we're supporting the 3 pillars of dual language education. We would be able to provide professional development that is very specific to the needs of dual language learners if both programs are in one building. And the multilingual model creates a considerable appeal to recruiting staff that want to feel that they are supported within a truly multilingual building. Angie's already been using the fact that we would be unifying our program in one building as a recruitment tool. So, next, John. Is this one you? Yes, I think this is you.
So when we talked about the board priorities initially, we had talked about wanting to prioritize neighborhood schools as we had been in years past. One of the slides for both of the concepts showed the kind of racial makeup of the schools in Concept 1 and Concept 2, and some of the schools, particularly Leland DPW, were a little bit further out of the bounds than they were right now. This was just to explain that most of that is because both of those schools would be removing a large portion of the dual language students who would be then going to the dual language school. And when you remove a large portion that is predominantly Hispanic students to go to a different school, it's going to affect the rest of the average demographics of that school. So those numbers are there if anybody cares to look at them.
And next, I think this question was from someone who wasn't really familiar or well-versed in the programming at our dual language programs. So it says, if both Spanish and French dual language programs are together in one school, does it help the students if they are pulled away from their English dominant friends or English dominant students? Is there a better way to balance the building? So currently, there are both linguistic and racial diversity within the Spanish and French DL programs. So we have students who are native English speakers with students who are native Spanish or students who are native French and Lingala speakers. So this diversity would continue to exist whether students are in a strand program, which is what we currently have, or in a whole building together. All students in either program are developing bilinguals and have skills in both languages. Moving to a whole dual language building will still provide the same diversity. There are by design English dominant students in the program. And last, John has the last one, I believe.
Yeah, and this one was, we actually got from a couple people on the second night and is related specifically to the presentation where I kind of had this slide up earlier. So if you look where Yankee Ridge and Yankee Ridge intersect, it shows that there's 0 students impacted by the boundary change. That just indicates because they're not moving from Yankee Ridge to Yankee Ridge.
This one is Thomas Paine that you're showing the board, John.
So Yankee Ridge is here, but it's either way. In both concepts, there's this row of zeros right along the diagonal where no students are affected, and some people were confused about that. We explained at the second meeting.
So thank you for entertaining that. We wanted to make sure people who attended on one night and not the other saw all of those questions. Our public who did not attend now will have access to those questions and the answers to them in the board update that will be shared tomorrow. So again, the survey is out and we are collecting feedback on the elementary boundary plan maps through March 15th. Once the survey data is closed, we hope that we can bring forward a update or just some kind of overview from RSP on the March 19th meeting. If you were unable to attend the sessions, John did do the best that he could to get the recording in. I know it was hard with lots of moving and kind of people up and down for the sound in the space, but we have posted that on the redistricting website and the presentation, the updated presentation. So there were a few tweaks that were made to night 2 based on people's feedback from night 1. And the updated presentation is also available on the redistricting website page. And upcoming dates, next week is spring break, so there's no school. Very soon after that, we will have the student-led conferences on March 28th and 29th. And then kindergarten registration at Lincoln Square Mall is April 24th. We moved it back a little bit. Typically, it's earlier in April, but we are timing it very intentionally around after the board has made a decision, so we can have those conversations with families about incoming kindergarten families about which school is dual language, and we'll have a map so we can tell families that come and register at Lincoln Square that day on the 24th where they would actually be going as kindergartners. So that'll be April 24th from 10:30 to 5:30.
Thank you.
FOIAs, yeah.
Yeah, we have 3 FOIAs that were completed. First from Tom Schroeder requesting access to all records pertaining to the creation, altercation, or revision of attendance units. Additionally, requesting information about how the district has made this information open to the public. Again, another Tom Schroeder requesting any reports that are newer, corrected, or substantively similar to the monthly board report attendance reports. In particular, I'm still wanting to receive January class counts, and newer monthly board report should provide them. The last is from Brittany Frost, requesting any records that provide the dates when any teachers other than Ms. Pio were assigned to my child's classroom as the classroom teacher. This should include any substitute teachers for a full or partial day. If the substitute for a given day news to be if the substitute for a given day, I'm guessing it's what he needs to be identified, please retain enough data that individuals remain differentiable from each other. Sorry. Any board reports tonight?
I do have one.
Go ahead.
No, I want to hear your voice.
That's funny.
Well, I can start on your phone.
Okay, I have something to say. And I wrote it down. So I'll say the last couple of weeks have provided me with a bit of clarity. So I'll say I look at what should be considered a very positive and ambitious series of changes to fix a multitude of problems we are facing. Instead, the proposed changes have created a real distrust in the administration and the board. During the last meeting, we had 33 people come up to that table and speak to us, and they're not saying anything new. What I consistently heard them say was not stop, not to end or reverse the decisions the board has made, but to pause and make sure that we're doing it the right way, using sound judgment and even employing the expertise of the people who have a vested interest in the success of this district. I've had parents and teachers tell me that they're worried that everything is moving too fast. They understand that changes need to be made, like what you, Superintendent, has said, and I'm paraphrasing, but change is hard, but sometimes it is necessary for the greater good. They understand that, but they don't want it to be poorly executed change. They feel that time after time that their questions and concerns have fallen on deaf ears, and now there's no point in trying. That's why Ravi quit. He felt that it wasn't worth it. That's not how this works. We need to listen to the people, every one of them, and take what they have to say seriously. There's a huge gaping hole of mistrust they have with us that needs to be repaired, and I implore every one of us, even though we're missing 2, to really think about how this makes us look. It's my main concern. We get to listen to everybody, not just the ones that aren't speaking. We have to listen to the ones that are loud too. They want to help us. So that's my piece. And I was kind of frustrated last meeting when we had all those people talk for 2 hours. I didn't say anything, so I'm part of that problem. But I'm here to let you know that we've really got to be more concerned with how this is affecting how we look, how the district looks, and it just, we need to start yesterday doing that. Okay.
Ben, I appreciate, you know, what you're feeling, and I think we all do feel that. Part of the problem too is that because 4 of us are new, we weren't part of the process that have taken place even a couple years before we started. I think what the frustrating thing is how we look. Right now, we put up facts and figures about how our students are achieving, and they're terrible.
Mm-hmm.
If we would pause and have to wait a year or 2 to implement some of the things that will help those students who really need the assistance, who need the change, because what we're doing is not working. If we would wait 1 or 2 years, then the change for those students won't occur until 3 or 4 years. And it's too long for those students.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is a lot of the fears that they're having, and I have, is that we're rushing through this. And I'm trying to say I'm not, whatever we do, we have to do something to fix the problem that we're having.
Right. So that's what we have to
we're alienating
do now.
ourselves from the people who we're here to serve. We're hearing from them. They come here every meeting, and they're telling us they want to see us do something different.
Right. And the other thing,
we can't ignore them.
right,
And
of course.
I'm hearing that a lot.
And
So-
everything that they ask, even though we can't say anything as they're talking, everything that they ask, they write emails, and we have the opportunity to check on those things and to introduce some of those things in other ways, even though we can't do it publicly. You know, we're not ignoring what they're saying. We're following up on some of those suggestions, which have been very, very good. But the other thing, as far as planning, when the board said in October, yes, we want a 6th grade center, the planning started the next day. The teachers are meeting and they're planning and they're deciding what to do. And the same thing with the dual language. As soon as we decided in January, they started meeting and they started planning. They have to do the work. We do the policy, but they have to do the work.
We do the policy, they do the work, but there needs to be some transparency. There needs to be a portal in which they know that we're doing something, that the district is doing something. And if they come to us saying, we don't see anything, that means that they're not being shown. So I'm not saying we go back at what we're doing. I'm just saying we need to make sure that they're have some buy-in, because they mean just as much to how this operation works as the people providing that product. Now, the product is in need of a lot of work, because the kids that are the consumers of this product are failing. So I'm not saying we stop, but we have to make sure that there's buy-in, and we're letting the people know that they're being heard. That's what they're fed up with. They feel like they're not being heard. So any little thing we can do to create the impression that they're being heard helps, as opposed to not. So I'm all for it. Let's try something, because right now we're failing these kids. But we got to make sure that our names aren't cursed every day by parents who feel that we're not giving them any buy-in. That's what keeps me up at night.
I understand. It's still early. It's still early. You have as long as you need.
It was nice to hear your voice. Thank you. Sometimes I question myself, like I ask a lot of questions because one, I need clarification to understand what is happening, and I need to understand that I am understanding right. That's why I question. I always question myself, like, hey, why other people doesn't question? It's like maybe I'm very slow and I don't understand, or what's going on. So thank you. I like to hear your voice, and I want to hear that more. So my report is that yesterday Ben and I went to Yankee Ridge, and we had the opportunity to hear a little bit more intimate the teachers and the concerns. And after the meeting, I was just thinking, like, what do we do in here? What am I doing in here? I feel tired. I feel confused. as a mother in the district, I trying to plan my days to what is going to happen with my kid who is in the Duolingo program next year, and I can feel that anxiety, and I can feel that stress of like how it's going to work now next year. What are we going to do next year? And I don't know if you guys do, but as a parent, we plan, and we constant plan like, okay, what is next? What is next? And yesterday when I heard the teachers, I understand why they are frustrated. I mean, if somebody comes to my job and say, we're going to close your school, and then next year we don't even know where you're going to go. As a parent, I'm stressed, and so now I'm thinking about parents on Yankee Ridge, and I feel it. I really feel it, and I also understand that we are putting a lot of changes out there, and it feels like so fast. And as Charles said, we haven't been here so long as members of the board. I really don't understand why it took this long to pack all this change in one time, and what are we waiting for to do it? You know, I remember one time I told you that let's just do something, let's just move along, because stopping things is not going to help. It's not helping. And I know Paul is here the longest, and you had the opportunity to make these decisions 10 years ago, redistricting, and because of those people who come and then are loud, we didn't do anything. You guys didn't do anything. The Duolingo program was 2 years ago, and because people came and they were very loud, I guess you guys got scared and didn't do anything. So I'm scared now. Every time I go outside, yesterday I was terrified of what they want to hear. Because when they talk about, like, why did the Latinos want their own school? Why they just don't build a new school? And I'm thinking myself, yeah, that would be really easy. Because now I'm scared to send my kid to this school, because I'm not so sure how he's going to be treated. I'm scared to send my kid to Thomas Paine, because I'm not so sure how the community is going to treat him. So that is really hurtful for me to hear. I'm scared. And I understand them. I mean, yes, nobody wants to come and tell you tomorrow you're going to close your school and then you're going to move. But we have to understand also that there is some voices out there that they don't come as loud because they are scared. I don't imagine the Latino parents coming here and say, like, yes, we want a school. Because somebody's going to come and say, yeah, but you are not even American. You know, you cannot even be in the board because you are not citizen. So what are you looking for? Go back to your country. And that is where we are creating. I see a lot of things on Facebook and like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. Where would we live? Is Urbana wasn't supposed to be a community where welcome and friendly for everybody? But no, it's not. This is scary. It's really scary for us to come here and talk with our accents, with our lack in English. The French community come and say loud, we want to have our kids where they have been accepted. But also we have some parents for the same school coming and say, I don't want my kid to go to nowhere. We have parents in here to say, I have my 18 months old, and I bought the house, and I'm planning him to go to that school. That's my right. But nobody's thinking about the kids who are outside waiting, already there, you know? So yes, Ben, I understand. There's a lot of things that we have to think about it. And the way how we looking at the community, I don't think nobody really cares about it, because I'm not sitting in here like really struggling every Tuesday because I want to be cool, or I want people to say my name cool. I came here to understand why. So I don't know. I don't have the answers. Yesterday I heard the teachers. I understand them. I wish there is other ways that everybody can be happy. But I know that is not going to be a path that everybody's going to be happy.
I agree with you, but also remember a lot of the teachers there said they're for a dual language school. They're not against it. And I think a lot of the people that we hear from agree that they're not against these changes, but like I said earlier, they want to make sure that it's done correctly for the benefit of all the kids.
Yeah, and I understand that they want a strategic plan, and they want something that let them know. And I don't like the way how we are doing things. I don't like that the teachers didn't get this information 2 years ago, saying them, you know what, there is a possibility that we're going to change things around. I didn't like that Wiley kids were promised to go back to school, and now 2 years after, we are like, oh, well, by the way, we have a problem in the middle school. They resolve the problem in the middle school when you're school, and then just you already are out, so who cares? I don't like that. I don't like that. I had the feeling that there is other agenda going on, that maybe the district has a plan to resolve all the problems. I don't like that feeling. Sometimes I feel like I come here and I don't understand what's going on, because I see something that's happening, but next day is different or comes with a new thing. So everything is like a roller coaster, and I understand that. But 2 years ago, there was a proposal that the school, the Duolingo program needed to be unified. And because of those loud voices, it didn't happen. If we wait now, if we pause now, how many other years are we going to wait? How many more years? And in the meantime, my kid is in 2nd grade. And then the solution is going to come when he's in 5th grade. And then in all those years, he's going to be losing all those opportunities. So that my daughter, that is 2, is going to take it. And it's going to be happen the same thing. I mean, doesn't make sense to me.
I understand.
Just a quick thing real quick. I mean, for me, that decision 2 years ago wasn't just because the voices in the room were loud. It was really because it became clear to me that the 3 big things that we were looking at, we absolutely had to redistrict. It became, I knew that we had a problem, but 2 years ago, the numbers kind of made it stark how many hundreds of kids that we were busing out of the DPW area to all over town. You know, they don't really have any neighborhood school, right? Because we're taking kids, this kid and this kid and this kid on the same street, maybe some of them just across the street from the school, and busing them all over town. It became, clear that we needed to make a decision about the Wiley building. And all those decisions, you have to abate the asbestos first. So we knew we had to do that before we could redistrict. And then we had to make a decision about whether we were going to unify the dual language school and if we are going to put that in one building. So all those things were tied together. But the redistricting was the thing that I think was the forcing function that made us have to examine everything. And that's why we're having to do this at once. Because we don't want to redistrict and then make a decision on dual language and then have to redistrict again. We don't want to have to make a decision on what to do with regards to the programming at Wiley and have to redistrict again. So that's why this is all happening at once.
You knew it, all these problems, all this cascade. If you come out with the public and say, okay, we are seeing all these problems and we have all these opportunities 2 years ago. And they say we have to first do this and then do this and then do this 2 years ago.
I kind of did. I called it was a Gordian.
Well, but I don't know what is a strategic plan. I'm ignorant of that. I don't know what does that look like. I don't know what does that mean. But I feel like if you have a plan coming up for 2 years ago, by the results of today, probably the people will be more like, okay, yes, 2 years ago actually they mentioned that this is going to happen, that Wiley was going to be a 6th grade center, that the Duolingo program will take one school and it's not going to be Leo because it's too small. So it's going to be either Yankee Ridge or Thomas Paine 2 years ago. And then right now they will be like, yes, well, we are still comfortable, but we know that this is a plan and we know what is next. Because we like to know what is next.
So all 3 things that Paul talked about is basically what we've been talking about for 2 years. So I think a lot of the voices who now the decisions have kind of landed on people's doorsteps and people are engaged, who maybe weren't engaged in listening 2 years ago, but needing to redistrict, needed to make a decision about what we did with Wiley and making a decision about dual language. Those are the 3 big reasons why we didn't spend time pulling everybody together to do a strategic plan. I've said that. The work that we did as a board with our consultant, I was going to mention that we need to figure out what we're going to do for next steps. We, just so the public knows, we had a retreat last Monday, and we started as a board. You guys started as a board to really outline your vision, your goals, and our consultant from IESB, the School Board Association from the state, the first thing he said to us when we started is he kind of applauded you guys and said, I'm glad that you're coming together to talk about goals for the district, because you can't write a strategic plan if the board doesn't have their goals and vision in place. So we spent a couple hours doing that work, and we weren't able to finish, unfortunately. So one of the things I was going to ask you guys tonight is how you would like to do that, if we want to just schedule that maybe for the March 19th to kind of pick up that conversation and keep it going. If we want to have Perry come back and finish with us. I definitely, we need to have the board's vision and the board's goals pretty much laid out for us. So when I pull together a representative group of stakeholders to talk about strategic planning in the next few weeks, the board's goals and priorities are the main crux of what we're going to be talking about. So
Yeah, he really helped us clarify all that.
He
so
really
it was,
did.
So if he
great.
could come back, that would be wonderful. These
Okay.
are things
That
that
would
we
be
assumed,
wonderful.
you know, were the
Yeah.
right way to express things, and he was able really to help
He's
us.
a good
Yeah,
shepherd.
he was very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that guidance is
Yeah.
good.
Okay, so we will work on
Yeah.
another date for that.
I also like to say that as a former teacher, I know it's terrible for a teacher not to know what's going to happen. So we look to Dr. Franklin, you know, and hopefully, you know, that she's doing the work that we don't see, what she's doing every day, in order to keep the communication open with those teachers and understand what their needs are and to address those needs. And I don't know if you wanted to say anything about that.
Sure. I meet with staff all the time in terms of listening and creating plans to retain our staff on Friday, and then also our Friday and Monday. Peter Furch and I, he's the director of HR, so I just put a mint in my mouth. Spent all day at Yankee Ridge. We talked to 40 staff members. It was voluntary. They signed up to meet with us individually. They didn't have to meet with us. And I was so moved by what the staff members said, because I didn't anticipate it to be the good meetings. Because when you start talking about losing your school, it's hard. It's hard for people. The selfless conversations where teachers, and we haven't had any Yankee Ridge teachers come and speak out at board meetings. That wasn't the case when Wiley closed. And the Yankee Ridge staff that I talked to all stated that they know that change is necessary for our kids. It's just hard when it impacts you as an adult, right? So we talked about ways to keep them in the district and where they would want to be and who they would want to work with. And the biggest takeaway is a school is just a building. You can have school in a portable, you can have school at the Jewel School, you can have it in any building. But truly, a school community is the people you work with, the kids you work with, the families. That's your community, and you can put it in any building. And so we talked about what was the most important for them. We have this big master spreadsheet. I was at Thomas Paine today. I'll be at Thomas Paine again on Friday, talking to them about what will happen if that's the vote. I'm sharing with Yankee Ridge staff from my personal opinion as a Urbana citizen, that there's so many more reasons to select Yankee Ridge than Thomas Paine. I shared that with everyone because I didn't want it to be like that it could, I mean, you get to make that decision, and unfortunately you're not paid to make these hard decisions. You're volunteering and you take a lot of hits. But I shared that I think that this is what's going to happen unless the board doesn't follow through with the decisions they've already made. And it's hard. And what's the biggest resounding thing was that why do we have to wait until April 16th to find out what we're going to be doing? And that's really hard. And that would be hard for anyone, right? It's definitely hard for HR, just to make sure that we don't lose people in the process. We didn't lose very many Wiley staff in the process, because if we handle it with care and we keep people together who want to work together and we truly hear them and respond to what we need to do to make the district better, I think we're going to keep these people. There was one teacher that came in and was frustrated and kind of went off on me, and I love it. People need to feel comfortable. I've sat in a room where people have went off on Jennifer. And we're not here to discipline people for sharing how they feel. Staff members can say anything. And if you know me, I just say whatever too. For better or worse. But that's a healthy dialogue rather than tiptoeing around stuff. And so the staff that are upset or angry, and it's not because they don't support the decision, they're just mad. But it's not very many. And it's okay to be mad. It's okay to be mad about packing up your stuff. But at the end of the day, we got to put the kids first and the kids' needs first. And the adults have to come second. And they realize that. So I guess I don't know. We're meeting again with Thomas Paine. We have a spreadsheet going out to all, or a form going out to all elementary staff. The principals are going to be sharing that with staff this week to find out their first, second, third, and fourth preferences. Last year, we were able to give people their first or second choice. This year, it's really, it's going to be the biggest puzzle of my life and of other the HR team of really seeing how we can keep people together. And I didn't have anybody tell me that they're leaving. And 40 people voluntarily signed up to meet with us. And it just speaks to our district. And it was great. And I think if people really were going to leave, I truly believe they would tell me.
And can I say one thing? I do think, Ben, I just wanted to say this to you and maybe people that you're talking with, or, you know, some of your constituents who are questioning our ability to be able to do this. I know we take a lot of hits in this space as administrators, you know, for lots of different people, but we are very highly competent at what we do. My team and, you know, you guys get to hear from them. We know what we're doing, and we have a lot of experience doing what we're doing. So I don't feel any doubt that once you guys make a decision, like Sherry said, when you make a decision, we run with it. And we are going to move as quickly as we can and make all the decisions that need to be made. I don't have any worry that we're not going to be able to pull this off, so to speak.
I have no doubt.
So, but I think there might be people who worry about that because April 16th is late, right?
They should be worried
Absolutely.
about it. They have a right to be worried.
I just wanted to say that.
Oh, no,
That you're hearing from people saying there's no way we're going to be able to make it happen.
I don't hear them saying that they doubt your ability. I hear them saying that they're unhappy with the process. The path we've taken to get here is what they're unhappy with. Right, Sherry, you can't go backwards, but I'm retrospectively saying we need to be more careful.
Yep, and I think I have.
I'm not saying we.
Yep. Nope.
We're going down the path. Sixth grade center, I consider to be over the horizon. That we're going towards it. It's the process.
Yes. And I think we can do some things very intentionally, right? We're going to be impacting people literally all over the district. And so I've already talked with my team, with our directors, with our administrators about there's going to be a lot of harm that needs to be repaired, a lot of relationships that'll need to be restored. But I think as a district, once we have people in the spaces that they're going to be, we can do a lot of intentional community building together.
You and I both talked about this
absolutely.
Last Monday.
Yeah, yeah.
We said, well, this is something that's important
we have
to me.
to do it.
We have to do it. So
yes, I agree.
I just would like to see move forward a more substantial dialogue with the people.
And once we have it's hard to do that when we don't know what the end goal is going to be, right? So once the board has that decision, then we can kind of run with it and really do some things between the middle of April to the end of the school year to kind of let people feel comfortable about where they're going to be. The unknown is hard. So having tours, having visits, having community activities together where we can bring people together to get to know one another. I think it's great that our consultants are moving people together. Like Paul always says, neighborhood schools are you go to school with your neighbors. And so a lot of people that are going to be impacted by this are still going to be going to school with their neighbors. So what they're going to be doing is learning a new school and learning the other people who are in that space so they can go to school with their neighbors, but then also meet new people. And I think Thomas Paine is a great example it was hard at the beginning of the year, having so many Wiley families entering into a new space. But the Thomas Paine staff welcomed them, they wrapped around them, and they really are building community at that school together. And I think that's what we're gonna have to do basically everywhere.
Everywhere, right.
So, yep.
Right.
Even at a visit at Thomas Paine, some of the staff came up to me and said, I hope you don't move me because I was at Wiley and I really love it here. And this is important that for me to stay there. And it was nice to hear that because you anticipate that they were going to not feel comfortable there. So I was.
I understood that those at Thomas Paine readily welcomed their Wiley incoming family. That's great. You know, I think every school does that because we care, we give a damn, you know. So that's great. That's positive change. Okay, that's.
I'm just going to chime in one last statement. What was really nice too when I was talking, because it's late and my team's like, we're like, come on guys. So anyways, one of the things that I was really excited to hear from many of the staff members at Yankee Ridge, the amount of staff members that want to go to DPW, that have already said what grade level, they already have a plan. I mean, they're really excited about the work. And I think that there was a narrative out there, I don't know if it's social media or what, but I hear rumblings of saying no teachers are going to want to go there. No teachers are going to go. I mean, how horrible of a sentiment to even suggest when, I mean, how dare somebody say that our teachers wouldn't want to go there? And then that was what I heard over and over. It was fantastic. Now, they can't all go there, but it was really heartwarming.
I think that's a testament to how we shouldn't pay attention to social media in certain regards. You know. That's why I don't.
And every voice that you hear too in person, not just social media. I mean, we have people come all the time saying things that are simply not accurate.
Well, yeah, but it's, you know, it's a different social media, but it's still.
Yeah.
And if I can add one more thing just about the process and transparency, really quickly, like I really enjoyed the community feedback sessions that we had because you were able to kind of talk to people one-on-one, and I got to hear from people like some people who just wanted more information and some people who said like, oh, like the board presentations are too long. I've had meetings with some of the people who spoke earlier tonight where I got on a Zoom with individuals and just provided as much information as we could. Like I think we're really trying to provide as much information as we can about all of these things and get as much information and feedback as we can about all of these things.
And I had people who I think came to the meeting angry and left saying, I just want to help. Like, how can I be part of the strategic planning? Sign me up, you know. And so I think there are a lot of people who just want to be part of the, you know, they just want to be part of bringing it all together and planning what our next 5 years is going to be like.
I think that's where everybody wants to go.
Absolutely. Yep.
You know, I mean, I think that's something we all in agreement of is that strategic planning needs to be the next big thing we tackle.
Right, absolutely.
Yep.
Let me get back into it.
Randy, you have anything? I'm just teasing.
Could you restate the opening date for the application? Is it March 6th to the 26th?
March 6th, which is tomorrow.
Through the 26th.
March 26th. I wrote down March 6th through March 3rd.
We can say 27. Make it an even 3 weeks. 21 days. There.
Yep.
I think it's clarified
We'll do the
now.
full 3.
Can I add one more thing?
Cool,
Yes, I
of
know
course.
I want to go to bed. This is my bedtime. But I feel like if you already have the plan, you already have the vision of what is going to happen. Because moving the Duolingo kids in one school doesn't really make like it's going to happen, it's going to work. Moving the 6th grade center is not going to assure that it's going to work. But if you have a plan, like what is going to happen, what kind of trainings the teachers are going to get, what kind of benefits for the buses, for example, get. I know we talk a lot about that, but if you get something that you can just have a presentation or a paper to say, okay, you have a question, it's here, here's the answer, and this is our plan. This is how we're going to resolve these problems. Maybe the people is going to feel less hesitation.
Absolutely. Well, and we've made some big decisions for 6th grade center, but a lot of it has just been a lot of talking and brainstorming and So as soon as that is the plan, as soon as we have like how many teams it's gonna be, what the schedule's gonna look like, what the electives are gonna be, like, we'll have all of that at the end of the year. We can bring that forward as a plan. And I know Lupe is doing a lot of planning, around dual language. We've been meeting about the Tier 1 initiative and the co-teaching initiative and what that's gonna look like. We're gonna be meeting with the, interventionists and all those folks, who accepted positions very, very soon, so they know what their day is gonna look like. So yeah, there's a lot of work that's been happening behind the scenes around all the decisions that we've been making, so we can start bringing those things forward as they are final. They're not final yet, but yes.
All right. Anyone else? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, Anna.
Sorry. I'd like to acknowledge Anna Siegman for once again running our cameras on our broadcast tonight. Thank you so much. Sherry?
I just wanted to add that finally we are going to have additional hours at the Tiger Market at the high school. They're going to have open hours for shopping. First and third Fridays is during 8th period, and second and fourth Fridays would be after school from 3:15 to 3:45. Now this is a secret, but we've also indicated that we're starting an online ordering process for families who want to order food, but we're doing it with our students that we're serving first, and then we'll increase it. So you'll be able to find, right, and second and fourth Fridays, it'd be after school. So this, if I'm right, this Friday's after school, because last week it was during 8th period. And we also give out foods at 7:30 to 8 on every other Thursday as well. So students who are having breakfast can stop and get some things for give in their lockers for the rest of the day.
Share that so that can make it into Mr. Guzman's weekly update and into
Right.
the daily announcements from the high
Okay,
school.
thank you.
Yep.
That's great. Anyone else? All right, the chair would then entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Have a great spring break, everybody.
Thanks.